Night story. I was about 15 years old when my parents bought an old house in a small town. It was a huge 2-story house with a terrace, a balcony, and a big backyard full of plants and mango trees. The kind of house you rarely see anymore. They bought it for just 30 million pesos in 1995, basically a steal. Inside, it was in good condition even though you could tell it was old. There were a few flaws in the floor but nothing major. What I liked most was the backyard. To reach the backyard, you walked down a corridor covered in bougainvillea flowers that opened up into a large green space. There were banana trees, coral plants, and even a small pond in the back with some turtles. In one corner there was a small wooden shed filled with all kinds of stuff. Old sewing machines, bicycle wheels, magazines, notebooks, toys, and something that completely caught my attention. A huge marble mirror, almost 2 meters tall. It had a beautiful carved wooden frame with leaves and a pedestal engraved with Roman numerals. I was fascinated by it. Since it was drizzling, I took advantage of the moisture to clean it. I spent the whole afternoon wiping every speck of dust. When I was done, the mirror was spotless, not a single scratch. The reflection was so clear, it felt like I could step into it. It took a lot of effort, but I managed to carry it up to the second floor. I placed it beside my bed, right in front of a large door where plenty of light came in from the balcony. I remember lying on the floor, exhausted and drenched in sweat. I lifted my legs onto the wooden railing and stared at the mirror's reflection, until I fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I clearly remember the feeling of waking up and seeing a little girl sitting on the edge of the bed in the mirror, staring at me. I jumped up, ran to the wall, turned on the lights and looked around. There was nothing. It was just a dream, I told myself. I ran downstairs to the dining room where my parents were. They looked at me strangely, almost like they already knew. "She appeared to you too, right?" my mom asked. "The little girl?" I said. "Yes, I just saw her in the yard," she replied. "And your dad saw her too. She was sitting in the hallway playing and singing." My dad was pale and speechless, holding a trembling coffee cup. We sat together at the table and began to pray. At first, we prayed quietly, holding hands, repeating after my mom. Then she started raising her voice and we followed without even thinking, until our words echoed through the walls of the living room and throughout the entire house. That's when we heard a loud crash upstairs. We rushed to see what had happened. In my room, the mirror had fallen face down and shattered into pieces. But what shocked us most was that some of the shards were stained with blood. We never knew why or how. But that was the only strange thing that ever happened in that house. After that night, everything felt different. The air inside the rooms was lighter, the smell of dampness disappeared, and even walls that had looked faded slowly regained their color, as if freshly painted. Years later we learned the truth. The previous owner had lived in that house alone with his little daughter. For her 7th birthday, he had a mirror custom made for her, because she loved playing dress-up and putting on makeup. The mirror turned out larger than expected, but they kept it anyway. While he was carrying it upstairs, it slipped from his hands, right as his excited daughter was coming up the stairs. The heavy marble frame struck her head and killed her instantly.